afternoon and happy Sabbath, Covenant Advent Church. And good afternoon and happy Sabbath to those of you who've joined online. Welcome to our afternoon study. Thank you for joining, and I pray you'll be blessed as we worship together through the remainder of this Sabbath. Please take your hymnals in hand and turn to hymn number 462. Hymn number 462. Blessed Assurance, hymn 462. Blessed assurance, Jesus is mine. Oh, what a foretaste of glory divine, heir of salvation, purchase of God, born of His Spirit, washed in His blood. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. Perfect submission, perfect delight, visions of rapture now burst on my sight. Angels descending bring from above echoes of mercy, whispers of love. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. Perfect submission, all is at rest. I and my Savior am happy and blessed, watching and waiting, looking above, filled with His goodness, lost in His love. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. Amen. I'll now turn the hour over to our pastor, Pastor Lloyd Grubb.
Thanks. So good evening again, everyone, and welcome back as we continue where we left off. And we'll start back at Luke chapter 5. Luke chapter 5, and we'll continue our talk from there. Luke chapter 5. Let's pray. We'll bow heads for prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, I thank you for your love towards us and your continued guidance and kindness. I pray, Lord, that you may bless us and be with us as we study and meditate upon these words for Christ's sake. Amen. So we start off where we left off. Didn't get to finish some of the thoughts here. In Luke chapter 5, verse 36, the statements of new wine must be in new bottles. So when you want to do things a certain way, as I say, if you want to survive, if you want to maintain, you have to be able to understand the whole system. Now, we know we live in systems and stuff like that, but in a country you live, and you have to deal with Caesar and give unto Caesar what is Caesar. Caesar is doing his thing, but you have to do your thing. And so in Luke chapter 5, verse 36, we read, "And he spake also a parable unto them. No man putteth a piece of new garment upon an old. If otherwise, then both the new maketh a rent, and the piece that was taken out of the new agreed not with the old. And no man putteth new wine into old bottles, else the new wine will burst the bottles, and be spilled, and the bottles shall perish. But new wine must be put into new bottles, and both are preserved. No man also having drunk old wine straightway desireth new, for he said, the old is better than the new. Now, this is important for us because we understand that the old wine or the new wine is the fermented wine. It gets fermented and it becomes the spoil. I should say, let me say it this way: grape juice, when it's fermented, become the old wine. And normally, you have to put when you're going to ferment it, you have to put it in a bottle and it get fermented. The issue here is, I said, when you want to just eat or drink, you just want to drink something fresh. You don't really want to mix both. It's two different experience, two different experience. And so when we're talking about church now, we're talking about whether it be for your person, for a country. The problem is when you're doing things where you're trying to do the old method and trying to do something new, you can see where the problem. So say, for instance, I start first with a country. If you're a country and you're coming from colonialism, and you're trying to run your country based upon colonial principles and the colonial system, it will not work because that system is built on extraction. So it won't work. So you think almost all the colonial countries that they don't really prosper because what happened, they never started with a clean sheet of paper. So over the years, as I'm analyzing this, I'm analyzing it from a country point of view, a business point of view, a person point of view. So everything I'm going to say after this, sometimes it's going to be all over the place, but the main principle you have to look at is that if you are going to start a country, I say you're going to run a country as a prime minister, president, leader, you'd have to ask yourself the question, what is the system? Is that system geared towards success? Because if you're not a superpower and you don't have the ability to rob people, like attack countries and steal their oil, how are you going to run your system based upon their theories? It won't work because their theories is built upon extraction of weaker entities by robbing them. So you will never really be able to build a good system. You'd have to start from a clean sheet of paper and say, how am I going to put new wine into a new bottle? Because you're trying to fix things. I've learned, and Brother Green can testify to this, I've learned it by watching other people doing it. And so that sometimes you have to start with a clean sheet of paper. It's easier because it's a lot of work trying to fix what somebody has done. Can you build another man's foundation, right? So it would be best to start. I think that's why when, again, put it to family. When you start a family, it's 4 grandparents, if both of them, if the couple grew up with their children, their mother and father. So it's 4 it would be 8 grandparents, then 4 parent, and now 2 people coming together. That's a whole lot of confusion. And it would be better to start with some fresh ideas and start with the idea that we're going to try to redo this and do our experience brand new. Because their experience, because you're blending 2 lives, and their experience together is now you're blending 2 homes that came from 4 homes. And you're trying to blend that together. It's better to try to start the best as you can because you're going to come with baggage and there's going to be some headbutting and argument. Because anything that's worth anything is worth fighting over, so to speak, right? It's worth having an argument over. And that's the other thing too, some people don't understand. If a couple married and they said they have an argument together, well, sooner or later somebody's going to kill somebody. So you're going to have to understand that it's 2 different psyche coming from 4 parents and what did I say, 16 grandparents? 8 grandparents? April, I'm saying it wrong. I'm trying to multiply out too fast. Great-grand. And it's a lot of baggage that's coming with it, a lot of confusion, a lot of dumb ways of doing life. And so if you take it from the personal point of view, when your person try to do the thing, what do you want for your life? You have to start saying, listen, I need to start curate my life and design my life out the way I'd want my life to be. Because it might be that my parents' life was great, but there's some things that I need to work on. And so new wine have to be, and it's the same thing I see with church. It's like, as I say, what is the church about? What is the pathos, the sentiment, what is being preached? Because that will guide the members. Because we rub off on each other, right? By beholding one become change. And if you're beholding craziness and mindlessness and, like some of the stuff that you observe in a system, then you're going to become like that. So new wine has to be in new bottles. And you have to, if you have a fresh experience, you have to go. So I would say from a country level, if you're a country and you're a colonial country and you don't have the opportunity, and no disrespect to anybody, but it's just the reality. If you don't have no secret agency like the Mossad, the CIA, and you can rob countries and rob their this thing about Israel. What is the purpose of Israel? To steal land and to steal people vineyards and groves. But if you don't have the ability, you're not backed by, say, America to do that, how are you going to prosper? You have to figure out a different method of prosperity. And how you're going to run your system, you have to figure out a different way of running your system because you don't have that. That's just a fact. And you see many countries, they're struggling because I think what they never did was just start with a clean sheet of paper. And they come out of colonialism, which was they're trying to run the system like France and like Britain. And France and Britain got rich off stealing labor, stealing this. And if you're not planning to be a thief, how are you going to build a country? You're going to have to start with a clean sheet of paper. It's not going to work because you can't run a British system without that one ace that they always had up their sleeve, which is the ace was to enslave somebody, steal their labor and make money. So if that is taken away, how are you going to, oh, I didn't turn them on. How are you going to make money, right? You're going to have to figure that out. Does that make sense? All right, so it's the same thing with church. If you're in a church, you're not getting the result you want to get, then the question is, how are you going to get a better result if you do not come up with a different method? I'm going to read a statement from that Ellen G. White wrote to A.G. Daniels. I think it's A.G. Daniels. I want my brethren to begin to understand some things for themselves. God alone, by the quickening, vivifying influence of his Holy Spirit, can enable men to distinguish between the sacred and the common. God alone can make men understand that working on regular lines has led to irregular practices. God alone can make men's mind as they should be. The time has come when we should hear less in favor of regular lines. If we can get away from the regular lines into something which, though irregular, is after God's order, it may cut away some of the irregular workings which has led away from Bible principle. So you could be running on principle that it's irregular to the average person, but it's going to get you in a better situation. So I would say to you, like again, if you think about it, how simple it is that if you put nutrients in your body will have the nutrients to build and correct and do what it needs to do. But in the modern system we're dealing with, we have to come to the conclusion that they will see this as irregular. Because regular is that if you have an ill, you take a what? So we have to move away from that. So it's the same thing when we come back to the church. If you're in a church system and they view certain things as weird, and why will you make this effort? Well, guess what happens? You have to break away from that system, because if you don't break away from that system, you're not going to get to regular working. So this is part of our premise. So one of the things that we have to deal with is what happened in a system when rebellion has a lock on the system, where the system has made up its mind that it will not do sanitarium, it will not do anything for anything to do with naturally, only do drugs. It will never do anything to do with taking care of the poor, the fatherless, the widow. And, you know, when I mention that the number one and number two evangelists, I only mention it for reference sake. I'm just referencing the fact that why I would not want to be a part of that system. Because that system celebrates the death and destruction of poor people in Iran and in Palestine and in Cuba, in South Africa, in Zimbabwe, and stuff like that. So how am I going to be part of a system when I look at the Bible and the Bible is telling me that God is for the poor, for the weak, for the less fortunate, for those who are downtrodden? So for me, I'm just saying that the system, not the local people in the pew per se, but the system, the juggernauts in the system, the big man them in the system, they are representative of evil against those who are less fortunate. So we got to get out of that system, because if I want to be able to say I need to speak up, it's going to be speak up for those who are being oppressed. It's going to offend them. Does that make sense? And the system is not for that. So I'd have to break from that system, because I see that system as against me personally. And that's the other thing too that I've observed in our society. I've ever heard people talk about they don't want to talk about politics. And if you talk about anything, like say if I say Joe Biden, President Obama, Victoria Nuland husband, I can't remember his name, were the main one pushing the war with Ukraine and Russia. Somebody will say, "Oh, you're against Democrats." And I said, "Okay, I'm against Democrats." And you're talking politics. I thought I'm talking morality. Again, if I say President Trump ordered the military to steal the oil in Venezuela, oh, you're against Republicans. I'm speaking politics. So you think because a president does stealing is right? If I say, it was wrong for Joe Biden's son to making all that money and taking all that crack, even they said they find cocaine. Crack he was taking. Officially, look it up. He's a crack user, but I was told that's only black people use crack because crack is whack. But he was taking crack and they found even cocaine residue in the White House, and that he was one of the people making big money during Obama time and after in Ukraine. They say, oh, so you're you're against Democrats, you're talking politics. Brothers and sisters, we have to get more mature than this. Murdering and killing and stealing is not talking politics. It's condemning murder, theft and stealing, even if it's the government. Again, when John the Baptist says to Herod that you can't have your brother's wife, was that he was talking politics? I mean, he calls him his life. But it's morality. So what I realize is that there's people who, they have been so trained about the Sabbath, and they've ignored the fact that morality is part of Christianity, that if you talk morality, they think you're against, you're for politics. And so we have to get out of that. To me is the regular lines. The regular lines of Adventism is why I can't be part of the system. Because regular lines of Adventism is when you have the number 2 evangelist in the church constantly promoting, voting for somebody to save the white race. And literally that's what he's doing. And then if I say, that's not right because you're going to hurt me. Oh no, you're talking politics. But when he does it because he's white, he's not talking politics. We got to get more mature than this and get our head out of our whatever, out of where the ostrich put his head, in the sand. We got to get more mature and stop being silly and being foolish. Because I view that as a very foolish way to look at things. If a person is stealing, who cares if it's the president or it's a senator? You know, we had a senator over here from Cuba, and he was found with gold bars. But he's Democrat. So if I say something about that, I know a lot of people who vote and they're into politics. If you say that, they get very offended. Because they say, well, if you speak against he stealing all that, having all that gold bar, you're for Republican. People get very confused. It's just stealing. A thief is a thief is a thief. That's what it is. If I'm a thief, I'm a thief. No matter if I'm up here preaching and I'm a thief, I'm just a thief. What I have to do, and if somebody speak against me, somebody say, oh no, you can't say that because you're speaking against the Lord anointed. And people have all these silly statements they make. If a pastor is smuggling crack or cocaine, and you say, that's wrong, they say, oh, you're speaking against the Adventist church. If you say racism is wrong, they say you're speaking against America. Do you notice the American flag is synonymous with the Confederate flag when you speak against evil? Because they'll say, oh no, if you speak against prejudice, you're speaking against the American government or the American system. A thief is a thief. Who cares if it's the American president is a thief? He's just a thief. He will raise up from among the common people men and women to do his work, even as of old he called fishermen for his disciples. Those who do not realize the necessity of what is to be done will be passed by, and the heavenly messenger will work with those who are called common people, fitting them to carry the truth to many places. So we believe that says the gospel was always for common people and poor people. Rich people, Bible, Christ says, will only see in the kingdom of heaven. In 5 Testimony, page 80, it says, and what is I've realized, people believe that keeping the Sabbath day holy or keeping Saturday holy means that genuine, being honest, being truthful, having integrity, being fair, having true and loving true value. They don't see these things as of any value. What they see is as long as you talk about the mark of the beast and you go to church on Saturday and you claim you're Christians, it doesn't matter if you have no genuine. I don't understand how people can vote for people who are so corrupt and wicked and killing all these people. or they support leaders and say because they have church leaders and they have no truth or honesty with them that they support. So that's why we have to do self-reliant. We just have to do our own thing because we can't be part of that type of wickedness. At least I can. Those who have proved themselves unfaithful will not then be entrusted with the flock. In the last solemn work, few great men will be engaged. They are self-sufficient, independent of God, and God cannot use them. The Lord as faithful servants who in the shaking testing will be disclosed to view. They are precious ones now hidden who have not bowed the knees to Baal. They have not had the light. They have not had the light which has been shining in the concentrated blaze upon you, but it will be under a rough and uninviting exterior. The pure brightness of a genuine Christian character will be revealed. In the daytime, we look towards the heaven, but we do not see the stars. They are there, fixed in the firmament, but the eyes cannot distinguish them. In the night, we behold their genuine luster. Take a few more reading here. Desire of Ages, page 232. The Sanhedrin had rejected Christ's message and was bent upon his death. Therefore, Jesus departed from Jerusalem, from the priests, the temple, the religious leaders, the people who had been instructed in the law, and turned to another class to proclaim his message and to gather out those who would carry the gospel to all nations. The Desire of Ages, page 232. In Luke chapter 4, verse 18, notice he says here, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me because he's anointed me to preach the gospel to the who? The poor. So obviously the juggernauts of our society will not receive the gospel, never did and never will be. He had sent me to heal the brokenhearted. So obviously those who are not brokenhearted doesn't seem to need the gospel. To preach deliverance to the captive. So we are on the side of those who are being oppressed. And so I know it offends wicked people. And the recovering of sight to the blind, because some people are rich, increased with goods, and have need of nothing, but they are poor, wretched, naked, and blind. And to set at liberty them that are bruised. And so we are for that, and also to preach the acceptable year of the Lord. Now, note now, I'll read a statement that normally, in order for you to understand what's going on in life, you understand that there is a repeat of the same thing in every successive generation. Notice here, as a light, this is from Desire of Ages, page 232. As a light and the life of men was rejected by the ecclesiastical authority of the days of Christ, so it has been rejected in every generation. So Christ is just a template of what happened in every generation. Again and again, the history of Christ's withdrawal from Judea has been repeated. When the reformers preached the word of God, they had no thought of separating themselves from the established church. But the religious leaders would not tolerate the light, and those that bore it were forced to seek another class, who were longing for the truth. In our day, few of the professed followers of the reformers are actuated by their spirit. Few are listening to the voice of God and ready to accept truth in whatever guise it may be presented. Often, those who follow the steps of the reformers are forced to turn away from the churches they love in order to declare the plain teachings of the Word of God. Notice again, if you want to preach the truth as it is, truth, all truth, present truth, you're not going to be able to preach in the mainline system. Most people, even independent world, can't even take hearing truth. What they want to hear is gobbledygook about national Sunday law and stuff like that. Notice here, and many times those who are seeking light are by the same teaching obliged to leave the church of their fathers, that they may render obedience. In other words, new wine has to be in new wineskin. Matthew chapter 13, verse 3. Matthew chapter 13, verse 3. So one of the points that I think that makes us self-sufficient and self-reliant and we can be self-supporting is that we have multiple skills. skills, talents must be multiplied. And when skilled talents are multiplied, then not only we have multiple stream of income, but it's harder for people to cripple us, so to speak. And that's important. So this is another important thing to me for self-reliance. If you notice, Jesus was what type of job he had, what his day job was? He was a carpenter. Paul, the Apostle Paul, was a tent maker. So what we understand is that says, even with the gospel work, that these men as skill, they had skills that they could use. Notice in Matthew chapter 13, verse 3, it says, and he spake many things unto them in parables. He's saying, behold, the sower went forth to sow. And when he sowed, some of the seed fell by the wayside, and the fowls came and devoured them. And some of the seeds fell upon stony place, where they had not much earth. And forthwith they sprung up, and because they had not much deepness of earth, and when the sun was up, they were scorched, and because they had no root, they withered away. And some fell among thorns, and the thorns sprung up and choked them. But others fell on good ground, which is what we're looking for. And they bring forth fruit, some 100, some 60, and some 30. He who had ears to hear, let him hear. So we always about, and I'm going to deal with this in finance, but I say it here, that I believe money, when I say this, I say I don't believe that you shouldn't put, if you want to put your money in gold and silver, I don't per se believe and support it. I believe that money is always best at work. Either you're going to school to get a trade and a skill and a career, and then you go apply that in a work environment, or you put your money out there with somebody that is working, or the money is going to be loaned out, you get the interest on it. I believe money always should be in a situation where it has growth. Money in use make more money. So I believe that we're always actively looking for ways to either use, because money is simply our work product, and we get paid for our work product. And so then you put that money out to work just the same way, because that's your work product out to work. You're just multiplying your money. Or you improve your skill, or you multiply skill. In other words, in a job, you can improve your skill, multiply skill, so you can make more money. But we are always growing when it comes on to skill, talents, in our careers and our labor. We always can add new skill, new talent. Because what it is that the more skill and more talents you have is the more you can do for yourself. As I say, I'm not promoting, because this is the reason why I said earlier that I'm not promoting being an island. But I really believe that says, if you can add skill, like to me, making a pad pie can be just a skill, because people make a pad pie and they can use it as to make a living. Does that make sense? And you can just have it as a talent that you don't make money from, because you could pay yourself by eating it. Does that make sense? Or you can go sell it. Does that make sense? But it's a skill, because if you can get to a point where you make it and you're not even selling it, but you can reward yourself where you make like a dragon fruit ice cream, and the dragon fruit ice cream tastes commercial level. You don't have to really sell to make money, but that's money that you don't have to pay. Does that make sense? Because somebody have to go there and pay for that. You can make it yourself. That's just a skill. So not every skill per se has to bring you money, because money is just really a translation of work. Products and services. You either produce something or you offer service, and then somebody pay you for it. But you can actually do that product and service yourself, and you didn't pay for it, but you add wealth to you. Does that make sense? Like if I take a piece of sheetrock and I put up a sheetrock, it would cost me something to pay somebody to put up a sheetrock. But if I put up a sheetrock, I'm not going to pay myself, but I just add value to my house, as an example, or to a building. Does that make sense? So the more skill you have is the more you're able to either make money with the skill or enhance your life with the skill or enhance your value. Because you can put value in where there's no value. Does that make sense? Or you put more value upon what you have value. Does that make sense? So again, for me, I've done a lot of things in life, but one thing I've never done is run a farm, and I really don't know how to work with cement, right? I can do some cement work a little bit, but if you ask me, like build a house from scratch, build a foundation, I'll be like, I could do it, but I don't know what the end result is going to be 5-10 years from now. That's what I'm saying. I don't have that skill to be able to say, yes, it's going to stand up to the test of time, and it's not going to crumble, and the cement going to hold, because I've had enough experience. But anything above that, I could do something with it. And so it is that type of thing. So the more you can put into the ground, and then you can make it grow. And you have to put it into somewhere that there's a possibility for growth. In other words, you don't invest, you try to avoid investment in things that the possibility for growth is not there. So somebody say, could taking bets on the poly market make you money? Yes, it could. But for me, that's a stony place, or a place that can scorch you. As a matter of fact, a lot of those places are places where they have a desert right around it, like Las Vegas and stuff like that, or the economy is not doing well. So I think that says what you do, you're trying to put your skill and your time to somewhere you can make money. Like, I know if a person said to me, Lloyd, but I can go and get a degree. Well, if you're going to get a certain degree is not going to make you money. So unless it's just your passion, I wouldn't go into too much debt for that degree. Because you have to say, commensurate, how much money you're going to make from that degree. Now, you could bring you satisfaction. If that's what it is, and you have it like that financially, then you can go and do what makes you happy. But if you need the money to eat, you have to consider, well, what kind of degree you're doing. And so you have to invest in stuff that's going to give you return, but it's also going to make you self-reliant. It's also going to make you self-supporting, because if you can't have this skill, then you don't need somebody else to provide a skill. Does that make sense? So when I talk about, like, say, for instance, we do independent church. Well, part of it is that, well, some of it you have to go do Bible studies, do sermon, do something. So you have to depend upon somebody else to do it for you. You're being self-reliant. Micah chapter 25, verse 14. So skill and talents always have to be multiplied. And you'll find in this slide that says the more skills you have, if you can change a light bulb, that's a skill. If you can wire the light bulb, that's a skill. If you can wire it all the way to the breaker, that's a skill, right? That means you don't have to pay, you don't have to be reliant upon an electrician, right? Just be prepared for some time that if you don't know what you're doing, you could be bzz, 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 and you could get in shock. You could get electrocuted, so you have to know what you're doing and then learn the skill. But if you get to learn that skill, that's self-reliant. You don't have to depend upon. In other words, we don't want to always get into a situation where we're dependent, because when you depend, you have to deal with people. And, there's goods and services I pay for all day long, all the time. But the more I don't have to pay out, or the more I have the option where if I don't have to pay out, I don't pay out, then it's good. If I need a restaurant meal, if I can cook the restaurant meal, I can go to a restaurant if I need to, but I don't have to go to the restaurant to get the restaurant meal. That's better. And so that's what it is. Micah chapter 25, verse 14 says, for the kingdom of heaven is like a man traveling to a far country, who called his own servants and deliver unto them his goods. And unto one he gave 5 talents, and to another 2, and to another 1. And to every man according to his several ability, and straightway took his journey. So notice here, he's giving them based upon your ability. Also, you have to know your ability. Because you could come up in an environment that this kind of thing what I'm talking about is not modeled to you. Your parents go to work and then they come home and that's it. They're not having hobbies that are practical hobbies. Their hobby is to watch TV. So now come up now, you say, I want to have multiplied skill. It's going to be a harder slog for you because it wasn't ever modeled to you. But if you're in a home and you're being forced to renovate basement and stuff like that, you're learning skills that you're not being forced to learn. You're not supposed to say forced to learn a skill. You're just having somebody keep telling you, hey, Lydia, come and hold this for me. As I heard this week. And I'm thinking, that's a skill she have that she don't know. In the future, that could come in very handy. She could put that on a resume. I said, listen, you have to pay more because I can hold stuff. All right? So notice here, then he that had received. So what I'm saying is according to his several ability. Because if you get things into your hand that you don't know what to do with, it's not going to benefit you. I was talking to Brother Green about this idea that when we came to America at first, I remember I think you have to take possession of, and for a small amount of money, there were different places in America, like Trenton, different places that were needed. They were broken down because of the drug crack epidemic, the AIDS epidemic, all these different epidemics, including Vietnam War that hit America. And you could buy for very cheap somewhere a house in Trenton. Now, I look at that and I was like, I was around people that were doing that, but I couldn't deal with it because, number one, even if I had the money, I wouldn't have the talent. I didn't know how to renovate, how to fix stuff, how to whatever. That looked like a daunting task. And then I don't understand what I'm looking at, because what I'm looking at is that says
You know, some of the stuff needed TLC, some of the stuff needed to be torn down and rebuilt. But I don't know. So I just look at it and I'm listening to the people talk, but I don't know. Then later on, I did some mortgages, and I'm dealing with people I did actually loan for people who do renovation loans. I structure a loan, and they'll do it, but I'm just structuring it from a paperwork point of view. You know, this is the disbursement. Where you get the kitchen done, you get this amount of money. When you get the bathroom done, you get this amount of money. Electrical done. You know, I know the structure of it, but for me to go in there now and say, I'm going to go buy a house, I'm going to get the loan, buy the house and renovated it, it's not going to work for me because I don't have the ability, right? I would have to learn the other side of the business, which is the fix-up. I always say the first job I did when I came to America was working on renovating basements. So not like I didn't see, but it was a brand new clear basement where you're just putting up sheetrock and stuff like that. So, you know, but fully understand what I'm doing. This is like, I'm confused. I don't know. I'm just like, do this or do that. I'm like, oh, I'll do it. I don't know what is it I'm doing. And I thought the person think at times, and actually I heard about the person that says that I wasn't an effective worker, but I'm like confused. I don't know what a metal studs is. I don't even know what a stud is. You know, in Jamaica you have cinder block. I know you come in and seeing something for the first time, maybe like, what is this? And then they're saying, no, it's going to be a wall. You're right? How is it going to be a wall? Right? It's the thing is moving. Like, you know, you do the aluminum studs. You know what I'm talking about? It's not very sturdy. And when you screw on this sheetrock, it holds it still. You know, this is like, for me, I was just like, I don't know, I'm befuddled. You know, go get the stud. Like, what is that again? Oh yeah, it's the metal thing. You see, so you can imagine I wouldn't be an effective worker. And you know, and some people say I'm not about that lifestyle also. I'm not about that lifestyle. I'll read a book first. so notice here, you know, they wasn't given the best what they call physical genetics. So for me it's a struggle. We do the work, but it's a struggle. So notice here. Then so again, I don't have the ability. You know, I remember when I read Ellen G. White, I said I was reading one of her books. I can't remember one, and she said that says some people get the gift of like hard labor. They have the muscle for it. And I said, okay, because I was thinking, what is wrong with me? You know, if I do 8 hours, I feel like I need to sleep probably for 8, 10, 12 hours. So I realized, I don't have the genetics for it. But some people, they're like a bull in a china shop. They can just keep going. And I've worked with people like that. And it's like they're going and going and going while I'm like, man, I'm done. But I realized, you know, different strokes for different folks. So notice in verse 16, then he that received 5 talents went and traded with the same and made them other 5 talents. So he has what? 10 talents. And likewise, he that received 2 also gained other 2. But he that had received 1 talent dig in the earth and hid his Lord's money. So you can see, I don't believe passive. I believe that says you either put the money out to work, you get some interest on it, you put it out, and because Christ later on said, why don't you give it to the what? The money changers, right? Mm-hmm. So the money, basically things have to grow. In other words, I believe in growth. Like things, even if you risk losing money, but at least you have things growing. Talents has to be multiplied. So what talent I have last year, I've gained some talents. And what talent I have this year, I'm going to gain some more because I'm constantly in this mindset. What that does, it makes you self-supporting, self-reliant, and what's the other word? I was missing, self-sustaining. You can sustain yourself. And you don't have to worry about, I'm going to deal with this by the end of the month, with the Proverbs 24. We've talked about that woman before. Because what it is, you have the more times you have, is, as I say, you don't have to depend upon others. You can depend upon yourself. It doesn't mean that you're an island to yourself. It just means you have talents that you can depend upon yourself for your sustenance and for your tomorrow. And you don't have to be. And then if somebody wants to corral you and want to embargo you, you can deal. As I say, I remember when I realized that says the American government was going to go after Cuba. One of the first thing I started looking into, I started doing a lot of research on, is how much solar panel and wind does Cuba have? And I felt good, but I felt bad because they were on their way to try to get to 25%. I think by the end of next year or something like that. And I said it was good that they knew they were going to get trapped, but it was bad that it took so long. Because you have to know that if you're not self-reliant, human beings in general, it could be your wife, your husband, it could be your government, it could be your church, going to try to trap you. So when I saw that, and then I saw 2 weeks ago that another shipment of solar panel came from China so they can power their hospital, because America has crippled, the American people have crippled the Chinese, the Cuban hospitals so that they can take care of the sick people. So you have old people, young people, older people in emergency, whatever, they can't be taken care of because they shut down. Anything to do with electricity, they can't do it. So at least China came to the rescue. So this is what American foreign policy is. So when you see that, what you do, you learn and take note and say, this is how human beings want to do to you and I. So you have to be self-reliant. So what they should have done, instead of trying to get oil from Venezuela, what they should have done is pick all that money they can, do an emergency, probably shut the grid. I would say, listen, people, I'm going to talk to you. You're going to die. They're going to kill you in the street. They're going to kill you in the hospital. I'm going to pull the plug on the electricity. And we're going to have to force ourselves to go straight to solar and wind. We cannot depend upon oil because America is going to cut us off. And that was what I was saying before it happened. So if anybody hear me talk, listen, I'm calling it because this is how I study these things. And I said, this is what they're going to do. They're going to cripple them. And they did cripple them. All right? And so for me, what does that teach me? It teaches me that if you're not self-supporting, self-reliant, self-sufficient, you will be crippled by human beings, because that's how human beings are. They're trying to control you, and if you can't bark at you, especially if you're not white, because they don't do this to Russia and China. They always did business with Russia and China. But Cuba and Haiti, they try to cripple. You have to get off their system, as they'll kill you. And that's basically how I see it and how I be called it and how they've been playing it. This is I'll just talk about the last 30 years of America. That's been the history of America. If you have oil, you're dead. They're coming for the oil. And so that's what it is. So skills and talent has to be multiplied. Another thing that is important to multiply skill, and even I'll say this again with the skills and talent multiplier when we're talking about housing. You look right now, is there a housing crisis in America? Are there abandoned houses in America that need more than TLC and TLC? Some little tender loving care. So what's the problem? Is it a housing crisis in America, or what is the problem? It's a skill problem. Because if you can go into the house and give it some tender loving care, you can solve a lot of problems. Now, some people say some of these places, the people don't want to live in. But let me ask you this. Are there people right now living in their car and in broken down trailers that would be doing better to live in some of these areas and to renovate the house? Are there places in Midwest that is broken down, cities after cities, towns after towns, that have homes that are going for cheap, the price of cars? Yes, because I've done the work, so I can answer for you. The average price of a car in America is how much money? You in the car industry, you know how much money the average price of a car? Brand new car. Right, I hope you're not aspiring. So, to buy that. So if it's 40,000 to 50, right? So when you think about that, there's homes right now you can find in places in America that you're going to have a problem with job. But if you're self-reliant and you have a little skill, you can go in there, whatever, and start a business, do all of that, and get a local house for yourself. And in areas where the problem is not so much crime, but the problem is that they're having is that there's a fall of population. Fall of population. What the number? So almost 50, so 49,000. And you can find areas where it's not crime so much as a problem. There's areas there's crime, drugs, and all that type of stuff. But there's other areas where it's just the population is dying. But if you are a self-reliant, self-supporting person, and you're self-sustaining, and you can go and start a business anywhere, especially if you can just go somewhere you can find internet. And you can do any type of business with your hand, with your head, with both. You can go, you're free to go wherever you want to. As I was saying to you, that says your career, you're getting to do is an international career. It's an international language. If you fly a plane, you have to know English. You can fly a plane anywhere in the world as long as you have that pilot license. Certain things is just international. Not that she's trying to fly a plane. I'm just saying, as an example. 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 12. So another important thing when we talk about self-reliant, self-sufficient, and self-sustaining or self-supporting is this idea of health. We're in a system where you need some, let's say, some ointments for your ailments, your weakness, and your aspirations. You need some solution for your illness, your ailment, your weakness, and aspiration. In other words, there's things that you're weak on, there are things that ail you, and there's things that you aspire. Aspiration doesn't mean that you have health to overcome. You probably just want to be fitter. You want to be stronger. You want to be faster, right? That's aspiration. And so you have to have something to help you along that journey. Because if you could be stronger, right now, if I ask you, if you could be stronger, faster, fitter, leaner, and smile more, would you go for that? That's aspirational. And so if something going to help you do that to make you have a better health than what you have, you have to know that says you're charting a course that's not the mainline course. The mainline course is not so much to do facial treatments. The mainline course is probably to do Botox. But if you want to be able to look healthier and younger and more vibrant, you have to go down the road of solutions for your health. 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 12. 1 Corinthians 6, verse 12. Say, all things are lawful unto me, but all things are not expedient. All things are lawful for me, but I will not be brought under power of any. Can you go out there and take a GLP-1 antagonist? Of course. Nothing stopping you, right? It's what's it, to lose weight. It's a thing to lose weight, whatever it is. The biggest fad right now. Ozempic or Olympic. So notice here, meat for the belly and belly for meats. But God shall destroy both it and them. Now the body is not for fornication, but for the Lord, and the Lord for the body. So he's basically saying, all things are lawful, but you should not be brought under the power of any. And so what it is with health, what you have to do is maintain some self-control, because if you maintain self-control, what it is that you have control over what you're doing. As we understand that the gem of Christianity in our personal life is self-control. To be able to have control over what you're doing and to control your tomorrow. But if you have no self-control, you have no control over tomorrow. 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 8. 1 Peter 5, verse 8 says, be sober, be vigilant, keep looking around, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, making people take vaccine and they're dying of stroke. Your adversary, devil, goes around as a roaring lion, walking about, seeking whom he may what? He may get to take some GLP-1 antagonist and then mess up their stomach, bleeding from whatever orifice. You see, so again, you have to think about it and say, listen, we can't just anything. When we're younger, I say, it wouldn't be nothing for me to think I'm going to drink some box drinks. I'm going to drink some drink that looks like neon red, neon green, neon purple, all right, and some purple drink. And guess what happened? Think about the average person who don't think about these things. They just go to a backyard pharmacist that's out in the shed cooking up some powder, and then they take the powder up their nose. And now you get into this type of mindset. You start thinking, I can't be an addict to any product because then they control me. Can you be self-reliant? Can you be self-reliant or self-sufficient or self-supporting if you're on drugs? No. You're not in control of your destiny. You're not in control of your money because you spend the money on what is not bread, on steroids, literally. And so you don't want to be in that situation. You want to be in a situation where you can chart your own health destiny. Sometimes I hear what it costs to do a surgery, 50, 60, 100, 200, 300, $400,000 for a surgery. And sometimes these surgeries are for things that say, listen, water could fix. Yes, water. Just water. Sometimes it's not even that miraculous. Just some water. Some cool, clear water. That's what the song say, right? Cool, just some water. And I'm not talking about 1 cup a day. That's right. You need to drink a lot. And the more the weather get hot, the more water you need. All right? And so, but then you're going to go down a certain path of, you're drinking more volume of water. You're partaking of more volume of pizza than you do of water per cup. and you're going to be in problem. Deuteronomy 28 verse 13. So we need some solution for our healing and for ailment. Because what it is that when we go at life and we understand that we are striving, I should say, you don't have to be, because you have to do what you have to do. I'm trying to do what I have to do. That I need to be healthier than my physician. I need to be in better financial shape than my banker. Right? I need to be in better educational shape than my teachers that taught me. I need to be in better theological or religious understanding than the top of the church if you put 10 of them together combined. Aspirational. So then the moment I start going life like that, then I have to look at it and say, I have to get better result. I need to be able to keep myself as young as possible as long as I'm alive. So that, again, in my past, I would used to say, I need to feel like I'm 35 again. But I think I need to go back to them 28-year people, You have to aspire, and you have to work towards it. And then if you say, okay, if I have to get back to that there, how am I going to get there? I'm going to close on finance. If I have to get to a certain level of finance, I might not want to get to all that way, but then I have to go study people like Warren Buffett, which is something I do. Because then I have to understand finance at his level. And I'm not necessarily want to get to his level, but if I get there, I'll tell you about it. Deuteronomy 28, verse 13. Deuteronomy 20, because it's a skill and a talent. Why not? You know what I'm saying? Why not? I remember when I was younger, I used to hang out with some older men, as I say, above 65, that they were pumping iron at 65. They look very healthy. And I remember, when I say 65, 70s. And they were, one of them I remember I used to deal with a lot, he and his wife, and he was like a beast, as they would say. But the amount of supplements he take, I thought it was overkill. But my man was, it wasn't even a thought. Like he has literally a Gold's Gym in his basement. And I literally never went near and pumped one iron, because I know it was going to be futile. It's going to be futile. And he never said to me, hey, you want to go pump the iron? He probably had mercy on me. So, we never went down that road. He just showed me the equipment. And I was like, yeah, that's very good. Let's go back upstairs to the herbs. Let's deal with the herbs. We get to that one day in our life. Notice in Deuteronomy 28, verse 13. And the Lord shall make thee the head and not the tail. So we aspire for this. We believe in this. We accept this by faith. We can see this. And thou shalt be above only, and thou shalt not be beneath. If thou shalt hearken, if that thou hearken unto the commandments of the Lord thy God, which I command thee this day, to observe and to do them. So when we talk about commandments, I believe talents multiply. All the things that we talk about is part of the commandments of God. Somebody say, the commandment of God is very specific. Yes. But remember, the two main errors, I'll give you an example. This is a thought exercise for you. The two great errors. What are the two great errors of fallen Christianity? Roman Catholicism. What are the two great errors that built upon everything? What's the two great errors of paganism? What's the two great errors of Satan? It's the soul shall never die, and Sunday sacredness. No worship on Saturday, but worship on Sunday. But out of all these comes a lot of other teaching. So if we say that one of the great errors is Sabbath, well, what is the Sabbath a creation of? I give it away. What is the Sabbath a memorial of? Creation. So if the Sabbath is one of the number one thing, that is an error of Satan that he gives to the church and the world, whether it be paganism, Catholicism, fallen Protestantism. What one the logical error would be if there's no celebration of creation and the creation day? It would be evolution. So if I come now and I say to Adventists, evolution is something we need to talk about. They'll say, what we talk? Because it's part of the great error. It's out of that comes a lot of other things. The soul never died. There's a lot of other things where people can talk to departed souls and all that type of stuff. It's just the foundation. So when we talk about keeping the commandment of God, somebody understand, out of the commandment would why I would say, thou shalt not steal. So somebody say, well, if the president do it, it's stealing. But they say, oh, that's politics. That's not politics. It's just a thief is a thief. Somebody say, oh, but he's in high office. I'm not the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court says, as long as the president is in office, this is the rule of the land of America. This is not a biblical rule. It's a demonic rule. If the president murders people, he cannot be prosecuted for it because he's the president. It's not a crime. Is that biblical? It's not biblical. But somebody would have an offense because it's the president and I voted for him. You need to go check your vote. And if you vote for him, you need to go pray and ask God to forgive you. That's all. If you have a president spending this whole time stoking a war and killing so many people, and I get upset over it, don't worry about me getting upset. Deal with the emotions. There's dead people out there. There's kids. Every time you see a child being pulled from a rubble in Palestine, remember that's an evangelical that killed that child. It's called Made in America. Don't get upset with me. Deal with the fact and start to think about it. Who's sending those bombs? Who's refueling plane? Whose tax dollars? It's major tax dollars going to kill those people. They're embargoing Cuba. What did Cuba do to them? You go to any of my neighbors and ask them, what did Cuba do to you? Have Cuba hurt them? But their tax dollars being done to embargo Cuba and to kill those people in the hospital. And if I get upset, I'm a human being. I have feelings for people. Don't get upset with me. Get upset with the people who are killing them. Marco Rubio especially. So again, that's what it is there's commandments, and from the commandments spread other thoughts. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not steal. That's a commandment. Thou shalt not bow down to graven image. And from that, you start to have other thoughts. And then you can read other commandments in the Bible. You say, oh, I should follow that. Like as they say, by the sweat of your brow, you eat bread. So, you're going to have to sweat, right? And you're going to be your brow. But somebody said, no, we'll do slavery. Don't get upset with me because I say that. I'm just saying that's the world that we live in. So again, if you were creating a culture or a country, you have to say, okay, if we're not going to have people stealing, how are we going to make them make money? You have to have goods and services. And that's it. You build on that foundation. Revelation 22, verse 1. Revelation 22, verse 1. So the Lord shall make you the head and a tail. So our principle is that we're our sport, so to speak, our sport, since we're in the season of sports. Our sport is that we are trying to do life on multiple fronts. In the church situation, in our careers and our skills, in our relationship with our spouse, with our physical body. We're trying to do succeed in our finance. We're trying to succeed, but we're trying to be the head and tail in all these things. So we put a lot of time into it. And every time I learn a new skill, and YouTube has become a brilliant source of that. Because sometimes you can go on YouTube and watch videos about somebody doing something that when you finish, you actually say, wow, this is actually better than most things I've ever seen. But somebody put out the skill out there and you practice it and you be like, oh man, that thing really worked. But what you do, you just enhance the value of your life. Notice in Revelation chapter 22, verse 1, it says here, and he showed me a pure river of water. So we start there. That's what you need. Start with always water, all right? Because that's what we started with. There's the earth, and then there's water. And from that, it's all start. This is why they want to go to space, and they need to terraform it. But one of the things they're having a problem with is what? Water, because they know the water is H2O, and that's where you need the hydrogen and 2 bonds of oxygen. And without that, how do you even start? That's become a problem. I'm still waiting for them to figure it out. I'm curious. Clear as crystal, so that's where you use filters. Proceeding out of the throne of God and of the Lamb. In the midst of the street of it, and on either side of the river, was the tree of life. We need this, but in between that, we take some mangoes and some peach and some plum. We're still waiting for the peach to get better. Which bear 12 manner of fruits and yield fruits every month. So we believe in a fruitarian diet. If we could get it, we'll partake of it. And when we do get it, we try to eat as copious amount of fruits as we can. And when you do this, it's amazing. I always say this, that says the only thing I've seen that can give me the results that fruits give me is beans. Beans have the highest antioxidant. ORAC value. And so if I can stomach it, I just sometimes can't stomach that much beans, but I try to do as much as I can of pinto beans, red kidney beans, and black beans. Very interesting what it does for your skin and for your youthful look. And it yield every manner of, 12 manner of fruits it yield every month. And the leaves of the tree are for the healing of the nation. And so we take herbs every day, because when we take herbs every day, clarify our brain. I take herbs for my brain, I take herbs for pain, to take down my inflammation on a daily basis. Sometimes I sometimes skip a day or two and just give my body a break, but I always take herbs. And I take herbs that can be taken long term. So that means I won't take dandelion on a daily basis, because that is very, it'll have you going all night urinating. I wouldn't take juniper. I wouldn't take, certain herbs, I wouldn't take them daily, because they can force the kidney to do stuff. Last point here. I'll just read this quickly from Jeremiah chapter 8, verse 21 and 22. So we always need to have some solution for your problem, because what happened, we can't go there and get what we're looking for. Does that make sense? So we have to find the solution for ourselves and deal with the solution for ourselves. Sometimes we can go there, we find people in a like mind, and they will have the solution that we're looking for. But most of the time, we have to be a moat for ourselves. We have to create our own castle or a moat, and we have to build our own system. We have to build our own systems because, again, most people are not in the mindset that we're in. And so because most people are in the mindset they're in, we have to do life a different way and go on a different trajectory. And so we have to figure out solutions. And the more people we have around us, and the more people can find us, figure out those solutions, the better it is for us. In Jeremiah 8, verse 21, it says, For the hurt of the daughter of my people, I'm hurt. I'm black. Astonishment had taken hold of me, or on me. Is there no balm in Gilead? And we need some balm, something to rub ourselves. Is there no physician there? Why then is not the health of the daughter of my people recovered? So health can be recovered, but we need some balm. We need something to rub on ourselves. If you're in pain, you need to find a solution, and you don't stop looking until you find a solution. Now, somebody say, what if the solution is not readily available? Just think about, we live in a society that is not going to be readily available because, like, they have the germ theory. They think you need to kill it, burn it, fry it, cook it, if it's virus and bacteria. So what they do, if any mangoes come into the country imported, they kill it, burn it, radiate it, fry it, cook it. And so guess what happened? The people look like they have not eaten a mango all their life. They look mashed up. So we have to then go a different route, and now we have to be self-reliant, self-sustaining, supporting, and we have to support our own cause, because we can't find people that are supporting what we're doing. So we have to go try to find like-minded people, and people are thinking this way. We're in a society that, again, they just death and destruction on the plants. Glyphosate, Roundup. I think Roundup and the glyphosate is the same thing. Glyphosate is a chemical name for it. And they just poison it and kill it because they are. And so some people say, we can do better with the food that we're going to put in our bodies. And so there's so much disability and stuff like that. So you have to go independent of that and sort of independent thought and thinking, I have to do it for myself. So sometimes, as I say, you have to go cook some stir fry for yourself and make their head spin. So they're at work and they're just thinking about you all day long. Notice here, when drugs legal and illegal is the professional, when drugs legal and illegal is the professional only consideration. So the professionals only consider drugs legal or illegal. It is good to have something well-established, a well-established alternative that used to be mainstream, to use that to build up yourself, to nourish yourself, to relieve yourself, to correct yourself, to alleviate yourself. Remember, before the Rockefeller human being that caused so much destruction in America, came on the world scene, it was okay for people to use juniper berry to clear their kidney. Dandelion. Now I'm reading, so somebody was either telling me recently, or I was reading something that they're trying to preserve the information about herbs because of what Rockefeller did 100+ years ago, that America and Western world is losing the meaning of these herbs. I want to think about what damage they have done. So imagine in the world before the drugs, people used to understand that juniper is not just a decorative plant. I think it's an evergreen. It used to have medicinal value. They used to understand that there's certain fruits that actually were medicinal. But now they have to almost archive the material because the current generation and next generation will never know that the plants they're seeing outside are healing. Because the herbs are for the healing of the nation. And so they don't know. So think about what a destruction happened to the Western world. That there's people going around looking at plants and thinking, oh, look at the echinacea, it's so beautiful. I don't understand. That's especially in your winter. Right? Elderberry, that's your syrup for your coughs. You don't need to be dying of how many people recently died of pneumonia. 20, 40-something-year-old died of pneumonia. And somebody said, did somebody get him some elderberry? And I'm sure you think you're stupid. We're talking about elderberry. Drugs. Create C. diff in my body by just wiping out all the good bacteria, friendly bacteria in my body, and give me C. diff, and then I drop dead because I'm nothing to fight the illness. So that's the world. So because of this now, we have to be self-sufficient. We have to be self-reliant. We have to be self-supportive because we're not living a thing that's support. And this is Western world, I'm here in America, but if you're in somewhere else, what happened, you have to look at the culture around you and thinking, this culture is nuts, I have to do my own thing. Because if I follow the culture, I'm going to hell. I'm not going to hell in the sense I'm going to burn in hell, because that's going to be in the future, but I'm going to be living a hellhole in my personal life because I'm following the dumb people around me. You have to look at them and say, listen, the Bible describes them as fools and ignorant, and don't follow them. You can't follow the dominant culture in any culture because these people are doing stuff that is against their own self. Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 7. We take probably a few minutes here, probably 7:15 we close. And we're going to look at finance, growth, stability amid chaos. So one of the things that's important, and we're going to deal with this next week, the following week. So we'll just take some notes from here to build. Deuteronomy 8, verse 7 onward says, for the Lord thy God bringeth thee into a good land, a land of brooks of water, of fountain, depths that spring up out of valleys and hills, a land of wheat and barley and vine and figs and pomegranates, a land of olive oil and honey, a land wherein there thou shalt eat bread without scarceness. Which country is the breadbasket of the world? At this point here, which country is being described here? In Deuteronomy 8, verse 7 onward, which country is being described? Israel. But if you look right now and you say, if you close your eyes and didn't know what this was talking about, could you think this is America? The people live in the breadbasket of the world. What are they looking for? They're looking to Israel. I said, Israel is a breadbasket. Israel used to be the breadbasket. It used to be the land flowing with milk and honey. That's a cursed place right now. That's a place of death and destruction and war, famine, and pestilence. The people on the horses in Revelation. The 3 horsemen in Revelation. A land that thou shalt eat bread without scarceness. Thou shalt not lack anything in it. A land whose stone are iron, and out of whose hill thou mayst dig brass and even metal or iron from Scranton, Pennsylvania. But thou, in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, Bethlehem steel, right? But we going hunting after monsters in place that God says, listen, I took my people out of there, and that place is cursed. Verse 18. But thou shalt remember the Lord thy God, for it is he that giveth thee power to get what? Wealth. So does God want you to be wealthy and your soul to prosper and you be in good health? That he may establish his covenant which he sware unto thy fathers as it is this day. Remember, to be the head, not the tail, to be multiplied, to multiply 60, 30, 100-fold. this has always been a promise. God says the only thing that come with this is you will be persecuted because people will not like you. But when you follow the commandments of the Lord, you will multiply and become the head. You will not live a mean life. You will live a life that you have, and you will not eat with scarcity. As I said, we only gluten-free because we eat some other things. But it's not anything else. It's just that we avoid that thing. So that's it. But we like the pomegranate, don't you? This is Patriots and Prophets, page 534. The Lord declared to Israel, the land shall not be sold forever, for the land is mine. For ye are strangers and sojourners with me. Leviticus chapter 25, verse 23. The people were to be impressed with the fact that it was God's land, which they were permitted to possess for a time, which we all do. We're just here temporarily. And we just get the blessings and the benefits that we can get while we're here. That he was the rightful owner, the original proprietor, and that he would have special consideration made for the poor and the unfortunate. It was to be impressed upon the minds of all that the poor have as much right as, it was supposed to be impressed upon the minds of all that the poor have as much right to a place in God's world as have the more wealthy. Is that true? All right. Everybody, who says one group of people should have all the land? Who says one group of people should control the whole of Africa, the whole of South America, the whole of this, whole of that, and nothing for you? It's all my toys. And you can't come around here and play. And you definitely can't come and sit in my toilet and and drink it at my fountain. Who said that? Satan put people up to this foolishness. Continues, she says, such were the provisions made by our merciful Creator to lessen suffering, to bring some ray of hope, to flash some gleam of sunshine into the life of the destitute and distressed. Page 534. The Lord would place a check upon inordinate love of property and power. Great evil would result from one man becoming a trillionaire. Great evil would be a result from the continued accumulation of wealth by one class and the poverty and degradation by another. There's a lot of crimes that happen in the ghetto and in trailer parks, and a lot of it has to do with just poverty. Without some restraint, the power of the wealthy will become a monopoly. That's why it's good to have economic crashes, right? It's just have to reset, because if they don't reset it, God will say, I'm going to crash it and reset it. Because then the accumulation of wealth by the robber barons over there in Wall Street will become too much. So when we understand that process, we understand God will just reset. If they won't reset it, because every 7 years, Israel was a reset, and the poor people would revert back to the land. So they want to be perpetual poverty, where they get debt forgiven every 50 years, they will go back to their land. So that means that my parents could make a mistake and make a bad choices and lose the land, and then I get it in my older age, and my grandkids could get it in their young age. That was God's system. So God's system, that's one of the most important things you need to do is not only have some land, but have a little house. It just so happened that says in our modern time, house can become, house is ubiquitous. There's a lot of houses, and houses have a lot of value. Where in the past, a lot of our value would be the land. You can grow some things. We're going to read about that in a second before we close. And you could have some value in the land. But today, you have house and land. And that sometimes the house is of way more value than the land. But who don't have no house? The poorer class. So God now have to say, listen, if the system would never crash, the rich people would just keep getting richer and richer and richer. And next you know, you have billionaires, then you're going to have trillionaires, then you're going to be one person going to be trillionaire. The next you know, probably the head of NVIDIA going to be trillionaire, the head of Apple, the head of, Microsoft, Tesla, and then it's a race of trillionaire while they just impoverishing. They're getting fatter and fatter and fatter, and then, you have like a North Korea situation. The leader is fat and everybody is poor and slim. So notice here, it says, notice now, without some restraint, the power of the wealthy will become a monopoly. And the poor, though in every respect fully worthy of God, worthy in God's sight, would be regarded and treated as inferior to their more prosperous brethren. So when we talk about who is superior, a superior race, is it about superior intellectually, which is definitely not? Is it about financial superiority? Is it about, we call it genetic superiority? Is it about whatever? Always we're really dealing with is that without the money, there's no talk about superiority. This is why people fight to keep the money, because what happened? What's the point of me going and saying, I'm the best, I'm the greatest, I'm the superior, and you're broke? Like, do you really believe somebody that living on the side of the street that is homeless and talking about the superior, you don't think they're mentally ill and they take too much drugs? It makes no sense. It's when you have somebody now who come from South Africa and he's talking about he's superior because he's rich. So you'd be like, okay, yeah, he's superior bank-wise, but is he genetically superior? Yeah, he's not genetic. Is he intellectually superior? That's more the case of he's on the spectrum. And that's what it is. So they would think they're superior, and whoever is poor is inferior. The sense of the oppression would arouse the passion of the poor class. There would be a feeling of despair and desperation, which would tend to demoralize society and to open a door to crimes of every description. So a lot of what people will say, they say, oh, look at the ghetto, they have so much crime, they're chimping out. Well, it's a lot of it is crime, financial crimes. They're just broke. They have no means. They were not educated, and so the system created them, and the system trying to maintain them to show that say the people who have more money is superior. They're not superior. It's just that says they have more money. I mean, why am I going to steal $5 when I have $50,000 unless I'm like a Bernie Madoff where I have a sickness? It's a disease. The regulations that God established were designed to promote social equity, equality. So is Ellen G. White a socialist? The provision, is God a socialist? The provision of the sabbatical year and the Jubilee in a great measure set right that which during the interval has gone wrong in social and political economy of a nation. So here she's talking about everything that Adventism would swear off and say they don't believe in, because they like to keep the oppression going. If the law given by God for the benefit of the poor and continue to be carried out, how different would be the present condition of the world, morally, spiritually, and temporally or financially. Selfishness and self-importance would not be manifest as now, but each would cherish a kind regard to the happiness and welfare of others, and such widespread destitution as is now seen in many lands would not exist. In other words, if you flip the switch and you make the people who are not the Dalits, I think it is in India, if you gave them the wealth and then the people who are the wealthy became poor, you think they wouldn't be called for social change? Right? It's normally when you're in the position of the other person, you say, wait a second here. What is that treatment? And you go to the Bible, you say, oh, the Bible makes provision that we should not behave like this. So part of our stability is the principle, I'll read it here, the principles which God has enjoined would prevent a terrible evil in all ages that have resulted from the oppression of the rich towards the poor and the suspicion and hatred towards the rich. While they might hinder the amassing of great wealth and the indulgence of unbounded luxury, they would prevent the consequence, ignorance, and degradation of tens of thousands who ill-paid servitude is required to build the colossal fortunes of Britain, Germany, France, so forth. And they have so much fortune that they have to just build museums to store them away, because all this stolen junk is just sitting there in museums for me and Tamar to go and look at. They would bring a peaceful solution of those problems that now threaten to fill the world with anarchy and bloodshed. So why the world is being filled with anarchy and bloodshed? They're fighting over oil. What do you think they're fighting over? They're fighting over gold. They ain't fighting over nothing else. In God's plan for Israel, every family had a home on the land with sufficient ground for tilling. Thus were provided both the means and the incentive for a useful, industrious, and self-supporting life, because we're supposed to be self-supporting. That's what we're supposed to be as Christians. Jesus did it. Paul did it. And everybody did it. Righteous, remember, Abraham had a household of over 1,000 people in the household. Right? So when we talk about, he had a little town that we traveled with him. Very fascinating. So he had to have everybody with him. I don't think they put shoes on camel. And no devising of men has ever improved upon that plan. The departure from it is owing to a large degree the poverty and wretchedness that exists. Notice people in the urban area don't own for the most part. They live in a lot of Trump family rented apartment, which he was reprimanded or had to give payment because of price gouging. But if you own a little bit and you own it, you own the land, you own the thing, whatever, you're paying, even if you're paying a mortgage, but you're putting money, you have a force, so to speak, saving, and you're building up value. When the housing stock goes up, your stock goes up. When the housing stock goes down, your stock goes up, but you have a house. You own it, it's yours. If you drop dead, you kaput, they say kick the bucket, and I always imagine somebody dead and they kick a bucket before they die. And you kick the bucket, at least you have something to give to your family members. So you're putting money into holes out of bags if you're living in a rentier environment. I believe that it's better to just own something, even if it's a little thing. Some people say, well, I need services. Yeah, you need first service, you need to have a house. And so I believe this is important because you can do things with your house. Again, we close with Luke chapter 4 because, again, we're going to expand on that the next 2 Sabbath. So I will not go more, but I'm not going to more into this because what I realized is an emergency. What happened is I realized that, because again, my focal point is the poor, fatherless, and the widow, and strangers, and those that are oppressed. And so I always study things based upon them. And so what I'm noticing that says, I knew it when I was doing mortgages, but I realized the problem never got solved. Even though we had the downturn with the economy and the housing market, when it came back up, what they say is a lot of black people never bought into the housing stock. And so they're dying without no money to give to their children and their children's children. Remember the Bible says, a good man leaveth a wealth for his children's children. That means his grandchildren. And so what it is that because black people had fled the southern slavery and poverty and degradation from Jim Crow and come to the northern states, but they corralled them into cities, so they never really get to own the housing stock. And so when they die, they'd work, but out of the wealth never get passed on, because if you're renting, when you die, they just get rid of the lease and put you somebody else in the lease. And that's it, they have nothing to pass on. But the Bible makes it very clear that we're supposed to be moving from a rentier lifestyle to an ownership lifestyle, where we own something. And so I'm going to have to get into it. And if you're online and you're watching, you want to get either you text and tell me you want to hear more about this, so I can decide if I go light or go heavy into it. But I realize there's an emergency, and I'm watching other people talking about trying to educate the society that you need to own something. And there's issue of timing, credit, all that type of stuff. But I'm going to tell you something. The focal point here is that I believe what God does and what we're supposed to do as his followers is that we pay attention and help those who are downtrodden. We're not here for those who are trodden down people. We're here for those who are downtrodden. And that's what we do here. And I hope if you're downtrodden, you know somebody's downtrodden, you can listen to us. We'll try to tell you. We're not just going to, I don't do like putting salt in the wound and crying. I believe in overcoming the wicked and the evil, because that's what God put us here to do. We have to overcome and strive to overcome. So I'm going to preach what I'm living, because again, we over here and we cry, but we're not, somebody said, you said, are you poor, Lord? Well, I'm just saying that I identify with the poor. Are you sick? Well, yeah, I'm sick, but not sick in my head, hopefully. But, I deal with pain, and so I'm always trying to overcome pain, so I know to deal with pain. Have you had struggles in your life? I have struggles in my life like everybody else, because this is the life we live. The rich and the poor have struggles. And so we're just trying to tell you the bomb. So if you hear me here griping, sometimes I watch videos and I see like they're pulling little dead bodies, and I remember I watched a video years back, and the guy picked up the shrapnel. They were pulling little girls and little boys out of the bomb site. And it broke my heart, because somebody picked up a shrapnel from the bomb and it says made in America. So that's, so if I'm dealing with that, you probably hear me, but it's not because a bomb dropped on me per se. It's because I'm dealing heavily with people who are dying. And so, yeah, I can see the people in the society, they're great because their country bombing other people. But for me, I'm identified with those who are downtrodden. Luke chapter 4, verse 18. Luke chapter 4, verse 18 says, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me. If you are anointed by Jesus, because he had anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor. So that's what we're here for. We're not here for those who are oppressing people. Notice it says, he had sent me to heal the brokenhearted, because that's what life, when life beat you up, when you're a bully, and again, that's another thing too, I don't like bullies. Never did. Somebody said, were you bullied? I was bullied. But the fortunate thing for me is that when I was a child, I remember I was bullied in school. And it just so happened that I had a brother that defended me because he was older, and I had a sister that defended me. So, and it was rough for the person. I felt bad for the people who were bullying me because the beatings were so bad. The beating was so bad. So what it is that I learned in this life from a child that people will bully you. But also learning this, as it says, you know what happened when slavery was going on, probably it would be good if the slaves had Iran fighting for them. Because for me, I know somebody say, well, where you live, I know where geographically I live, but I say, listen, I don't care who you be. I'm not in no sympathy for bullies. If you bullying people, somebody could say, oh, but that's offensive. But be offended. I'm just not trying to offend you or anybody. I'm just trying to say, listen, I'm not for bullies because, as I say, I'd experienced it at least twice when I was young. And I remember one time somebody was bullying me and pushing me around. We were coming from school, pushing me around. I don't know. I was probably third grade. What's that? Third grade. 7, 8, right? And all of a sudden, I'm starting hearing, whack, 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 whack. Well, look, oh, my sister was behind me. The person didn't know who my sister was. I mean, the amount of beating the guy was taking, it was unbelievable. I shouldn't say that because, probably watching me know my sister. But, yeah. But I told you I preach real. So if you know what it is, sometimes this is what it is. I know if you listen to most mainline preachers, it's hard for me to separate because you don't understand why. What's my sauce? And so you're not getting the value of what I'm saying. Now, why do I come to God? I believe that God is against bullies. But somebody said, but didn't Jesus die? Yes. But remember, the whippings don't start getting doled out in the dark ages. But somebody said that's the kingdom of grace. Yeah. And what do you read? Did they kill Christ's disciples and it worked out well for the Jews? How about the people in the dark ages that was hunting and killing the righteous? So I learned from a young age that it's good to have somebody stand up for you. So when we preach here, I know if you're for the bullies and you're for, we're this greatest nation and we're just killing poor people all over the world, you're not going to like me here because I'm going to be against bullies. And I can prove in the Bible and history that God always whacked the bullies. And whether it be Egypt or whether it be France, Germany, whatever, when they were killing the Christians, God just stopped sending the 3 horsemen of Revelation. And what did they do? They just started dead bodies left, right, and center. And when that didn't fail, God said 600 AD, I have an answer for the Catholic Church. And they just started sending Muslims. I don't stop attacking and killing them. I say, so the God of the Bible is against bullies. So I say I appreciate when somebody fight against bullies. Somebody say, am I going to fight? Nah, I'm not going to fight. I believe in just preaching. As I say, I don't have the genetics for that. I have the genetics of a reading book and talk. So notice it. He has sent me to heal the brokenhearted. We believe in this. To preach the deliverance to the captives and recovering of sight to the blind. To set at liberty them that are bruised. And I'm going to show you in a few weeks' time that in 1844, God came through for black people. And said, listen, I'm going to set them at liberty. And that like God just whacking that system. And when they did Jim Crow, whack them, all kind of disasters and that. And that's why they go from 30-something% of the world population to 8. Because God said, yeah, you want to oppress those who are mine, and you want to abuse people who are poor and less fortunate, I'm going to whack you. So that's why somebody say, why do you predict all this stuff about what's going to happen last year and this year? Because I said, I know God, and God going to deal with them. So that's why, they're going to go and decapitate leader in Iran. I said, God going to take care of them. Because all this is to do the mark of the beast and to oppress poor people. To preach the acceptable year of the Lord. So we do believe that the Lord is about to come. And we believe that says as we get closer to the end of time, the system will become more oppressive, but also we know that God's going to start doling out more plagues, more tornadoes, more hurricane, more stuff to deal with the wicked people. I pray that you may be blessed this week as Sister Tamara sing her closing hymn. So what we know, that we must be self-reliant, because we have to rely on ourselves. We must be self-supporting and must be self-sustaining. That's why we develop skills and talent so that we can take care of our own business. And so tomorrow I'm going to display to you one of the skills and talent that we do here. May God bless.
Please take your hymnals in hand and turn to hymn number 516. Hymn number 516. All the way my Savior leads me, what have I to ask beside? Can I doubt his tender mercy, who through life has been my guide? Heavenly peace, divinest comfort, here by faith in him to dwell. For I know whate'er befall me, Jesus doeth all things well. For I know whate'er befall me, Jesus doeth all things well. All the way my Savior leads me, cheers each winding path I tread, gives me grace for every trial, feeds me with the living bread. Though my weary steps may falter, and my soul athirst may be, gushing from the rock before me, lo, a spring of joy I see. Gushing from the rock before me, lo, a spring of joy I see. All the way my Savior leads me, all the fullness of his love, perfect rest to me is promised in my Father's house above. When I wake to life immortal, wing my flight to realms of day, this my song through endless ages, Jesus led me all the way. This my song through endless ages, Jesus led me all the way.
Let us pray. Father, we thank you for your blessing that you have given to us. We ask you, Lord, that you may, as we heard the things through the day, and that the only idea that we need to be independent, self-sufficient, I pray, oh Lord, that we may start practicing, if we haven't started practicing those things, that we not become dependent upon another man, but we become dependent on you and your principles, and that we may do everything that we can within our ability to learn how to use what's in our hands. And I pray, oh Lord, that as we practice these things, that we not only practice them for ourselves, but we may use it also to help others, that they may become self-sufficient, and that they may be able to also use the talents that you have given to them in their hands. I pray, oh Lord, that you may bless us this week. May you use us to do thy work, and that you may help us, that we may have a productive week. And I pray for those who have been hearing the sermon, Sabbath school, and this evening presentation in the future. I pray that they may be blessed, and may you continue to guide us and protect us for Christ's sake. Amen. Encourage you to join us back again on Sabbath. Next week we'll be going through lesson number 12, sharing him. I pray that you may be blessed. Have a blessed week and the end of the Sabbath.